How do you carve an intricate, massive masterpiece from a single piece of solid rock without a single mistake? If you chipped it once, the whole project was ruined. Yet our ancestors did it again and again with tools that should have been nowhere near strong enough for the job. What we're uncovering. In this video, we're diving into 5 impossible stone artifacts that defy modern engineering. From monolithic statues to hyper-detailed vessels, we'll explore how these ancient wonders were pulled from a single block of stone, leaving modern historians scratching their heads. The precision, why the geometry shouldn't be possible. The scale, how they moved these massive single-block giants. The mystery, were these just primitive tools, or is there something we're missing? Stick around until the end. The final artifact on this list is so precise that even today's CNC machines would struggle to replicate it. Kayasha Temple. What if the world's largest monolithic structure wasn't built at all, but carved straight down from the top of a mountain out of a single unbroken mass of stone? No seams, no joints, no second chances. That's the problem posed by the Kayasha Temple, one of the most mysterious feats of ancient engineering ever attempted. Carved into the ancient lava cliffs of India's Sharonandre Hills, the temple took shape more than 1,000 years ago as part of the Ellora Caves, 1 mile of 34 rock-cut sanctuaries spanning Hindu, Buddhist, and Jain traditions. The site is a study in religious coexistence. But Kailasa, also known as Cave 16, is something else entirely. It's a megalith, the largest structure in the world carved from a single piece of rock. Unlike most rock-cut temples, Kailasa was not excavated inward from a cliff face. Its builders began the very top of the basalt plateau and carved downward in a vertical excavation with no margin for error. Every cut had to keep the stone above supported. A single miscalculation could have collapsed the entire temple. Even now, engineers and archaeologists debate how the master builder maintained proportion and symmetry while removing an estimated 200,000 tons of stone using hammers and chisels. What emerged was a 3-dimensional stone replica of Mount Kailash, the mythical Himalayan home of Shiva. From the courtyard floor to the sanctuary roof, the temple rises more than 100 feet, carving an area nearly twice the size of the Parthenon. Elephants carved at its base appear to lift the entire structure onto their backs, and carvings depict mythic scenes from Hindu epics, including Shiva's dance and Ravana shaking Mount Kailash. Inside, everything, shrines, pillars, stairways, windows, was cut from the same continuous mass of rock. Elevated bridges once spanned the U-shaped courtyard until time erased them. Most scholars attribute the project to the rush of King Krishna I, beginning around 757 CE. Some estimates suggest the main structure was completed in under 2 decades. Yet the mix of architectural styles hints at a longer, more complex process, possibly extending across generations. No dedication inscription survives, and no blueprints remain, leading some to speculate about the use of advanced ancient technology. A medieval legend offers a more dramatic explanation. In it, a queen vows to fast until a temple is raised for Shiva and her dying husband is saved. An architect named Kokasa promises she will see the temple's crown within a week. To do so, he begins carving from the top of the cliff downward. Later legends cast the temple as nearly indestructible. One popular story claims that in the 17th century, the Mughal Emperor Aurangzeb ordered it torn down, dispatching 1,000 men. After 3 years, story goes, they'd managed little more than damaging a few statues, and the temple still stood. To this day, Kailasya Temple endures, defying easy explanation. Is it a triumph of human labor, divine inspiration, or both? For now, it remains suspended between history and myth. The builders of Kailasya left no blueprints, just the work itself, carved into stone, daring anyone who came after to figure out how it was done. Rye stones. On a remote Micronesian island, there's money you can't spend, can't move, can't even see. One of the most valuable pieces has been missing for more than a century. Somewhere on the ocean floor, lost in a storm while it was being ferried home on a bamboo raft. Yet on Yap, its value never changed. The villagers still remember its size, its shape, the men who carved it, and the chief who owned it. These rye stones, giant limestone discs, some up to 12 feet across and weighing as much as a car. They're the heaviest currency in the world, and maybe the strangest. A typical rye stone is shaped like a wheel with a hole in the center for carrying. Some weigh more than 8,000 pounds, and yet they're still traded to settle land disputes, arrange marriages, or make peace after family feuds. Ownership is transferred by oral agreement, and it doesn't require moving the stone. A disc at the edge of one village might belong to someone in another district. Another may rest underwater, lost in a storm. Its value remains because its story is known. So how did a society end up treating immovable stones, sometimes even lost stones, as spendable wealth? The practice likely stretches back nearly 600 years to a legendary voyage led by a Yapi navigator named Anamong, who sailed to Palau after being guided by a divinity and ordered the first stones quarried from its gleaming limestone caves. Those early pieces were shaped at first like fish and crescent before settling into the current form. The first Western descriptions appear in Jesuit accounts from the late 1600s. The logic is simple. Yap had no precious metals and no local material you could turn into a durable, widely recognized store of value. So the Yappies chose something scarce and hard to fake. That meant going off island. They sailed roughly 250 miles by canoe to Palau, where bright limestone could be quarried from cave walls, often using shell tools. The danger and effort were a point. The voyage, the hardship, and the names attached to it became proof of value. They shaped the stone into discs, drilled a hole through the center, and hauled it back, often risking life and limb. The stone's value rose with its size, the difficulty of transport, and the tale that followed it. Expeditions could last for months. If someone died carving it or hauling it home, the stone could become priceless. The largest stones were rarely moved again. They stood outside village meeting houses, tied to marriages, ransoms, and even victories in war. The oral record was everything. And then came O'Keefe. In 1871, David O'Keefe washed ashore on Yap after a typhoon. A 6'2" Irish-American with a murky past, he realized what the Yappies wanted wasn't trinkets, it was stone money. So he struck a deal. He'd ferry their quarried stones back from Palau. In exchange, they'd pay him in copra, dried coconut meat that was highly valued in global trade. At his peak, O'Keefe had 400 men quarrying stones for him. Using steel tools and schooners, he helped produce and import hundreds of ray stones, some up to 12 feet wide. O'Keefe became rich. He also inflated the stone economy almost overnight. But he couldn't fully disrupt the system. Newer stones, easier to quarry, were simply valued less. Difficulty, danger, and legend remained the true measures of wealth. Colonial powers later tried and failed to tame the system. In 1899, after Spain sold the island to Germany, officials began painting black crosses on ray stones to mark them as fines. During World War II, Japanese forces used some stones as anchors in runway fill. Yet the system endured. Today, US dollars are used to buy groceries, but ray stones still marked births, deaths, and honor. One man, Fetid, used his family stone to apologize after his brother's marriage fell apart. It was accepted. The stone didn't move. Everyone simply agreed the transaction had occurred. There are roughly 6,000 ray stones left on Yap. Some are cracked, some are half buried in jungle, some still rest where they were placed centuries ago. but none are forgotten. Because on Yap, wealth isn't locked in vaults or printed on paper. It lives in memory. And as long as the story survives, the money does too. The stone stele of Yangshan. In the hills outside Nanjing, China, carved halfway out of a mountainside and forgotten by history, lies one of the largest objects humans have ever tried and failed to move. The stone stele of Yangshan was never meant to be seen like this. 3 monumental pieces, half cut and half buried. Had it been completed, it would have stood more than 240 feet tall, higher than the Statue of Liberty. But its failure tells a story more colossal than the stone itself. A tale of imperial ambition, engineering folly, and the brutal legacy of one of China's most feared emperors. The year was 1405. The Yongle Emperor, Judi, had seized the throne in a bloody coup 3 years earlier, overthrowing his own nephew. To cement his rule and immortalize his father, he ordered an upright monument known as a stela, so grand it would dwarf every monument in the empire. It would rise in 3 parts, a 53-foot pedestal, a 167-foot stone slab, and a 33-foot crown, all chiseled from the mountainside at Yangshan Quarry. Combined, it would weigh more than 31,000 tons, and it had to be perfect. Thousands of workers were sent to Yangshan, armed with chisels and imperial orders. Legend says those who failed to meet a daily quota, 1 cubic foot of crushed rock, were executed on the spot. The dead were buried nearby in a village now called Fentoi, or Grave Mount. A poet later wrote, quote, 100,000 camels could not move it. He was right. As the pieces neared completion, imperial engineers faced a horrifying realization. The monolith was too large to transport. The mountain had been carved, the workers had died, the money had been spent, but the stele would never stand, so it was abandoned. The Yuner settled for a smaller memorial, his father's tomb, the Shangung Shini stele. Only 30 feet tall, it stands quietly on the back of a stone tortoise surrounded by dragons. It's beautiful, but it wasn't what he wanted. Young's ambition didn't end with stone. He rebuilt the Grand Canal, moved the capital to Beijing, built the Forbidden City, and launched the legendary treasure fleets of Admiral Zheng He. But he also ruled through terror. The scholar of Fun Shaoru, who refused to endorse his reign, was executed, along with 870 of his students, peers, and family members. Before he died, he dipped a finger in his own blood and scrawled one final word in the dirt: usurper. The unfinished stele at Yangshan remains there today, half claimed by moss and forest. Site monolith. Perched on a lonely hilltop in Peru's Upper Rimac region, a massive 30-ton monolith sits carved with more than 200 figures. Frogs caught mid-leap, pumas in mid-pounce, serpents coiled beside geometric terraces, plus tunnels, ponds, and miniature canals. There are no inscriptions, no instructions, just a silent monolith worn down by wind and time. This is the Site monolith, carved in the late Inca period, likely in the 14 or early 1500s. No one knows what it was for. It rests on the summit of Cungacha Hill, roughly 30 miles from Machu Picchu, on what remains of a vanished Inca sanctuary. The temple is gone, but a single colonial-era account survives, describing towering columns draped in cloth, wrapped in gold bands as thick as a man's hand. Its final guardian, a priestess named Asar Payai, is said to have leapt into a 1,300-foot gorge rather than be taken by the conquistadors. Did she take the secret with her? What makes Site more than a curiosity is its obsession with detail. The carvings don't feel purely decorative, they look like a working model. Water channels zigzag across the surface with surgical precision, flowing past sculpted animals and into geometric basins, as if the stone was built to test movement, not just to celebrate myth.
Some believe the monolith was a hydraulic model, a stone-scale laboratory where Inca engineers tested water flow, mapped terrain, and trained apprentices in the logic of canals and pressure. For a civilization that farmed steep hillsides, it may have been a civil engineering feat centuries ahead of its time. Others see something more celestial. The name Saitiit is often linked to a Quechua root word meaning a place of orientation. Was this a cosmic diagram, a ritual altar? With dozens of natural springs nearby, some think the site belonged to a cult of water, where the monolith helped summon rain or divine the rhythms of the earth. There are no definitive answers. The stone doesn't match any known Inca plants. It may not have even originated here. Some researchers suspect it was hauled up the hill from somewhere else, moved perhaps by priests or even looters. Nearby stones, like the simpler Rumiwasi carvings, hint at a local tradition of monolithic stonework, but nothing compares to Saitiit in scale or complexity. Today, the monolith remains unsolved. No language to decode, no Rosetta Stone to guide us, just a carved world on a forgotten hill, and the uneasy feeling that this stone might have taught something vital, and we let it slip away. The Sabu Disc. In 1936, British archaeologist Walter Emery opened a First Dynasty tomb hidden in the Saqqara necropolis and found something strangely out of place, maybe even strangely out of time. The burial chamber had been looted of its treasures, but the skeleton of Sabu, a high-ranking official, still lay in a wooden coffin. Beside him, shattered into pieces, was a B-shaped stone object, unlike anything else in early Egyptian archaeology. When reassembled, it looked uncannily modern, a three-lobed turbine blade, and it was 5,000 years old. The disc was carved from a single piece of schist, a stone that's fragile, flaky, and notoriously hard to work. It had three folded, curving lobes arranged symmetrically around a central hub. It looked aerodynamic, balanced, engineered.
Its purpose has never been agreed upon. What a forgotten tool. A symbolic artifact from a culture more advanced than we credit. And why go to such lengths to craft something so complex yet so breakable? Emery called it an ornamental bowl and left it at that. But the disc, 24 inches across, 4 inches high, with a central hole about 3 inches wide, remains unique in Egyptology. It doesn't match any stone bowls of the era. Carving schist into those delicate lobes without cracking it would have required extraordinary control, especially with the copper tools available of the time. And yet, the disc is shaped with such finesse that modern engineers have compared it to components inside jet engines and water pumps. A 3D printed replica suggested that when spun, the disc could generate a vortex-moving liquid like a modern impeller. If ancient Egypt depended on irrigation, could this have been part of a water-moving device? Possibly. But in a later test, Airbus engineers tested a copy of the disc and described it as aerodynamically interesting and fundamentally unfit for propulsion. It was too symmetrical to generate thrust. Then came the beer theory. A 2021 study proposed the disc was a mash rake used to stir grains in hot water in an early brewing vat. The curved lobes, the argument goes, would produce smooth mixing without turbulence. Supporters point to the tomb itself. Almost everything buried with Sabu, tools, oxen bones, vessels, relates to food. And in ancient Egypt, beer wasn't a luxury, it was a sacred necessity, even in the afterlife. Others push further. Could the disc be a replica, perhaps of a metallic original, whose function the Egyptians no longer understood? Some theorists go further still, calling it a relic of a lost advanced civilization or evidence of extraterrestrial contact. More cautious interpretations stay closer to ritual, a ceremonial object, a symbol, the trilobe design echoing sacred geometry of celestial harmony. Mainstream archaeologists tend to describe it as a bowl or even a simple lamp. But if it were common, why is there nothing else like it in the entire Egyptian archaeological record? Why carve it from such a fragile material if it was meant for practical use? It remains both beautiful and baffling. It's an object that seems meant to do something, even if we're still not sure what. If you could see the true purpose of just one of these artifacts, which one would you choose? Let me know in the comments. As always, thank you for watching Unrevealed Secrets. Like and subscribe to continue exploring the greatest mysteries of this world and beyond.